Hey everyone, it's Liz, the Frugal Libertarian from FrugalLibertarian.com, and I'm coming at you today with the first one of the videos I'm calling my book reports. Originally I was just going to say book reviews, but I feel like book reports is a little more fun and a little bit more, I guess, accurate. Basically, if you have a book you'd like me to read and give you my opinions and tell you what I liked and what I didn't like, please leave your suggestion below in the comments and I will take that into consideration. I'm starting with some easier stuff to read, just because I literally can count the number of books I have read into completion on one hand since my son was born. So I figured I would start my book reports with a book I did actually fully read. That is Politically Incorrect Nutrition by Michael Barbee. From what I understand from doing a little bit of research on him, I believe he teaches nutrition. And this is a topic I've always been kind of interested in. I'm not a person, because of my physical restrictions, I'm not a big workout person. I can't. There's very few exercises that are approved for a person with pudendal neuralgia. Basically it comes down to swimming and walking on flat surfaces. It is Connecticut and it is January 1st. Not doing a lot of swimming here. We do have a Y that's local, but I'm not a member, so it's kind of restrictive. So I also am not a person who is a fad dieter. I'm not a person who believes that starving the body is healthy. I grabbed this book, believe it or not, at my thrift store and thought it just looked interesting. I've also watched quite a lot of documentaries on things like dieting and on commercial agriculture, factory farming. I have friends who are vegetarians, I have friends who are vegans, and I've heard the rhetoric from both sides of that, and I am not a member of it. However, this book, since reading it, has changed the way we eat and how I look at food. And there's certain things about medicine that I look at a little differently as well. The other things I thought was I know of, and he talks about it a little bit in the book, is that the field of nutrition is a little bit politically biased. Basically, people, when they're doing nutrition research, they go into it with the opinion of, I'm going to prove X. And if what their results give them isn't what proves their preconceived bias, they're either going to ignore it or they're going to change. They're basically going to leave the results the same but change what the conclusion from their hypothesis is. So, you know, and basically the idea is if they do a study and let's say it says that eating meat or drinking milk is good for you and they were a vegetarian who was trying to prove that it was bad for you, they'll give you their results of their research, but then they're going to tell you in the summary that their preconceived hypothesis was correct. And I know that's true with quite a bit of nutrition science. The other issue is the preconceived biases mean that studies that disprove what people already believe about nutrition and health, that any study that is created that disproves the preconceived notions, it's very hard to get it published. In order to get a paper published in an actual scientific and medical journal, you have to get it approved. And if the people who are doing the approval don't like what you have to say, they may not print it. They may refuse to print it. So it's something that's just been so controlled by politics for so long that there are a lot of ideas that people believe about nutrition that are not grounded in actual science or not grounded in the actual results of studies that have been done. And that's a lot of what Michael Barbee is talking about in this book, which is why he calls it Politically Incorrect Nutrition. Basically the idea that there was a group who were vegetarian who wanted the country to become more vegetarian, who created the first food pyramid for the government. And the fact that the government, by the way, is getting involved in nutrition and telling people what's good for them and bad for them, I don't think that's government's job. You know, going even so far as to be a Michael Bloomberg sitting there telling people they can only have a soda this big and that there's not going to be any more salt in restaurants and all that. That's not government's job. It doesn't matter if what I eat ends up killing me. The politician does not control what I eat, what I put into my body. So, from a libertarian perspective, I don't even care. I don't see why the government is involved in it in the first place. He's writing about preconceived, politically charged ideas and why a lot of them are really bad for you. Being a naturally skeptical person, I'd already done a lot of research and kind of sat there and kind of said, well, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense, and tried to use my common sense as a guide. There were some things in Barbee's book that he elaborated on that I already knew about, and there were some things in it that I'd never heard before. I already had an idea that cows are not supposed to be fed grain, that they're supposed to eat grass. I mean, you look at the way their body is designed, the way they've eaten for thousands of years, and then we suddenly introduce grain to them, it causes a problem. Same thing with chickens. The idea now, the big thing with chicken in the grocery store, even so-called organic, all-natural chicken, is that they say it's vegetarian fed. And the problem is chickens aren't vegetarians. There are some birds that are vegetarian, but the majority of birds are omnivores and carnivores. Chickens being among them. They're really an omnivore, but they really in nature should be eating things like bugs, small rodents, small birds. They're not a vegetarian creature. The idea of having them be on an all-vegetarian diet is cheaper for the farmer, and it fattens them up faster so they can be sold quicker and they'll weigh more, but it's not necessarily the best thing for them. In Walking Dead, when the kingdom sends their pigs to Negan's group, they feed them walker flesh before they do that. The reason being, what it eats goes into its meat, and then the human eats, and they will get sick too. That if the animal is sick when it's butchered, the human will get sick eating it. This is not some kind of revolutionary concept. It's not. This is like a survivalist idea. I mean, you watch an episode of like Naked and Afraid. That's one of the things they say, you know, if you find an animal that died and you can't tell why it died, you don't eat it. Because if it was died of a disease and you eat it, you're going to get sick. Because eating diseased meat makes you diseased. Now, the point of that is, now in our family, we eat significantly less chicken, first of all, because it is very hard to find free-range chicken in a grocery store. And I've been looking into meat shares. They are a little bit more expensive. They're a little bit more money than what we normally pay for meat. However, it's something I'm still muddling over. I haven't made up my mind yet. But we have altered to eat almost exclusively grass-fed beef. And we found ways to do that within our budget, both by buying on sale. Aldi sells a grass-fed ground beef pound that is $5.50. There's another store that also sells a pound of grass-fed ground beef for $5.50 as well. Also buying the meats as manager specials, meaning it's going to expire within a few days, and either cooking it immediately that night or freezing it immediately and then using it when we can. There's different ways to bring down the cost because grass-fed beef can be more expensive, much more expensive than corn-fed. But because we've been reading into it, corn sickens the cow and then we eat it. So what's happening to us? We're getting sick. But that is kind of, I think, the biggest takeaway from this book is that don't buy into the hype, the nutrition hype. Don't buy into the fad diets. Don't buy into the propaganda. Think about it logically. Look in terms of biology and look at what has worked in the past and what should be working now. Like I said, for us, the biggest change has been this focus on healthier meat. Which is, again, not always possible because there are times when it's just so expensive that we don't have a choice. I can tell that I feel better. My husband seems to feel better. I keep losing weight as this is going on, and it's kind of really showing me a little bit of something that I think is really affecting my life a lot more. I really recommend that you read this book if you haven't already done so. If you're not coming to this video having just read it and wanting to put in your 2 cents on it. If you're going to go into the comments and talk about, well, I'm a vegan, I'm a vegetarian, what you said is so wrong, blah, blah, blah. Please don't do that until you actually read the book. Please, I beg of you. Please do not try to critique something you have not read. I think that's one of the worst things that people online do, is criticize things they have not read. And I don't think you can make an accurate statement about something unless you've read it. So that was this month's book, Politically Incorrect Nutrition by Michael Barbee. Go and grab yourself a copy of it. It's not a very expensive book. You can get a good copy used like I did. And you can tell, I mean, this thing is like so dog-eared. I lent it to my sister after I finished reading it. And it's just, it's been brought out to be referenced repeatedly, and it's just getting really worn. But it is an excellent, excellent book, and it really will change your life. Next month's book report is going to be another small one because, again, I'm trying to ease myself into the book reading because I haven't read too many books since my son was born. We're going to go a little bit more libertarian on this one, and we're going to do Thomas, well, the title is Jefferson on Freedom, Wisdom, Advice, and Hints on Freedom, Democracy, and the American Way, and it's credited as Thomas Jefferson. Just to give you an idea of how to get a copy of it, it is published by MJF Books. Copyright is 2011, I believe. I'm going to see if I can get a link and put it below. It's basically a collection of writings from Thomas Jefferson on freedom. And this book has been sitting on my bookshelf. It's not very big, again, and I have not actually sat and read it yet. And Jefferson is one of my favorite of the founders because he wrote the Declaration of Independence. He also wrote the Act for the Virginia Legislature for religious freedom. He was a very, very, very big believer in religious freedom and in the right of the individual. I think he's just an impressive human being, and if I had to pick a favorite founder, that would be it. He would be it. So I've been meaning to read it, and I haven't gotten the chance to. So yeah, that's gonna be next month's book report. If you can get a copy of it to either read with me, go ahead. If you want to see what I have to say and then get it after, that's fine too. I'm probably going to be sticking with nonfiction for a few months just to ease myself back into it because I have a lot of nonfiction. I'm a big nonfiction reader, so we're probably going to stick with that for a while. So anyway, I'm Liz, the Frugal Libertarian. I hope you've enjoyed this book report on politically incorrect nutrition, and I look forward to next month's book report with you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye!